Oh, what a day. I cannot wait to actually sit down, have a burger and a beer. Right, now we're on to the real thing, and I've got to admit I'm a little bit dubious about taking this on as a first project, but I guess in the welding world it's probably fairly straightforward, I hope. I've cleaned up where I plan for the welds to go, just with a flappy wheel on the grinder, so that should help us get a cleanish weld. That's going to be braced really simple, just in two places on each side, so we'll end up with kind of like a crate. And the reason I'm not welding anything inside the angles is because that needs to be smooth for our cage, our frame to roll up and down inside. So you join me to witness day one of welding. This is my first welding project, and you won't see it winning many awards for beauty, but hopefully it's going to stay in one piece and cook us some burgers by the end of this week. You'll hopefully see things improve a little bit over the next few minutes. You might not. But one by one I'm getting these pieces put together, and hopefully it's all going to work how it does in my head. Now, it appears you can't have too many clamps, just like in woodworking. So clamps and brackets and bracing became my best friend to hold everything in place, especially magnet clamps. They were handy. Most of it was done on the table, but when I needed to use the floor, I had to obviously ground it onto the frame itself. Most of the time I just grounded the table. I've now cut all the pieces I think we need for the internal frame that we're going to wind up, so I'm going to weld that. So we need the two sides, and we need to weld our grill support in first. Basically, I'm making up the design as I go, but what I bought is some 100mm flat to make a box from, and that's going to hold. It might be lined with firebrick. I've bought enough to do that if I want to. And then this will sit in the angle iron or steel angle frame, so that this could be removed if it needs to, rather than welding this in. And then above that will be the grill. So this bit will move, the grill will be stationary, but then I figured the whole idea of winding it up is to control the heat, but if you need to get to the coals during cooking, then you'd have to take the grill off. We're going to bring this down to 30. Or 300. The box will be in there. The furthest the coals are going to be from the food is a foot. 300mm. That's cool, that's fine. So that means that we end up with a clear 100mm space to get in, poke around the coals, feed some more in, and then when we take the grill off at night, we can chuck logs in, sink the whole thing back down. So with the welds getting ever so slightly better, the subframe is almost built. I wanted to make sure that it would move freely within the outer frame. So I cut it down a little bit just to give me a bit of wiggle room, because it doesn't need to be super snug against the side. It doesn't need to be lubricated or anything. I'd rather it just hang loose. It's going to be suspended by cables, so it's not actually resting on or in that outside frame. Right, another day, and we got fairly far last night, but I had to call it a day to go and do some editing. We've got the 2 frames. Now I need to build this box, and I was just kind of lining things up and seeing how it was going to play. Again, learning on the job. Haven't done kind of long welds, doing a fillet weld, is it, when you join in 2 pieces of flat together. But on the corner, and courtesy of some help on Instagram, I've decided that I'm going to leave it open on the corner. So I think what I'll do is square everything up. So you can see I've kind of got this open channel there which I can weld in. So tack top and bottom. Hopefully that'll be enough to hold it so I can flip it, and I'm much more confident welding horizontally. So let's try that. Right, now we're onto the grilling science of it, and I'm kind of scratching my head a bit again, gonna run out of hair to scratch, on how we place these fire bricks in. Originally I'd planned to line the sides with fire brick and the base, but of course your coals then end up much smaller. Your space for logs when we're using it as a fire pit is much smaller. So bearing in mind our fire pit's lined with bricks, I think steel on the side is okay. We're going to paint high temperature paint on everything anyway. We're just going to have them on the bottom, so we just need to make sure that they're supported. Once all that's ground down, the corner's looking okay now. That's how we're looking. It's probably not that tidy, but by the time that's ground down and tidied up, I think it's alright for our first effort. And the insides, probably can't tell in this light, but they'll be alright. Right, it's time to move on to our grill, which means a lot of pieces. So I'm still working with the mild miter saw on with the old multi-purpose blade in there. It's doing an alright job. It's pretty noisy and it sends the little shards everywhere, but I'm working with what I've got and it's quick, so that's all good. Let's lay this out. 4 pieces of the frame. And what I've done is cut the corners. There's a dozen different ways you can do corners, but this one seemed the best way to do what we need to do, which is create a square frame without weakening the corners. Of course you can butt them up underneath, but then it's not level. I figured we'd try this way. perfectly square, but it is perfectly solid. Right, bleary-eyed, and we've got one day to finish the whole project. We're a little far off still, but let me show you how I finished up last night. This is where we got with the grill. I think I've done all the welds, maybe a couple more to do. And then there's a whole load of cleaning to do on this. Couldn't do that last night because of the noise. Also, the welding's pretty flashy and bright if you live in a built-up area. And although it's not too built up here, I got the feeling that it was travelling out and lighting up the garden like fireworks. So for that reason, I boarded up the windows and carried on until I got all of these in. But that's that done. That's almost done and ready to grind. And then we're going to have to do a lot of cleanup before we paint. Oh, what a day. I cannot wait to actually sit down, have a burger and a beer. But we're a little way off yet. So today started out with grinding everything down, and then I painted everything with 3 or so coats of heat resistant spray paint, just like exhaust type. Well, it was for barbecues and stoves. Everything's covered in sawdust now, but it was looking pretty smart. But tonight's job is to try and get that whole crank system working. And there's a few hurdles to mess around with because it's a bank holiday Monday and all of this has to be done by tomorrow. And, well, let's see if we can manage with what we've got. Oh, tool station, screw fix. Amazon and eBay will get you 1mm, 2mm, 2.5, and it can be here tomorrow. Right, I'll sort this all out. Don't you worry. I'll pick this up in the morning. Hopefully we can get this fired up tomorrow.